right on time. Here we go. Ready? How's that? Call this meeting to order. All rise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and good evening, everybody. Okay, we're going to jump right to item number 3. Just to let you know, Jessica called me this morning, sicker than a dog, and she said she didn't think she wanted to share with us what she had. So we're going to actually reschedule her to the next meeting, and I've told her that. So that'll be it. If you can, save your handout so we don't have to print another tree here. Public comment.
Neil.
Neil hasn't shown up yet. Maybe he's on his way, or off doing other things. So we're going to go right into. I'd ask for a motion on the minutes. Find it where it is for the council meeting and the special, municipal plan hearing dated September 29th, 2009. Do I have a motion?
Make said motion.
Randy made a motion. Chris made the second. Lowell has a correction. And you've got that already?
It'll be included as an attendee.
Any other omissions or errors? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Okay, warrants going around. Joe's all signed it. We'll get those back to you, over to you in a minute, Joni. We're all done with that. Budget review.
Yeah, Mike, I actually did do a line-by-line review of the budget the other day, and actually feel pretty good where we're at this point overall. Maybe a line item here or there, but again, overall, it's in good shape. One of the things it's not reflected here relative to the sewer fund is Joan actually did a sewer billing today, and when that occurs, it gets charged. The accounts receivable gets set in that fund. So you'll see that fund look quite differently in another couple of weeks. But overall, we're in good shape. I did actually double check on the state, a lot of the state funds. For instance, the pilot money last year came in on October 21st. So we that $53,000 that we have budgeted there with the zero next to it for actual, has been bothering me for some time. But hopefully that should change here within the next couple of weeks. I'll hold some of my other comments to the manager's report. But
okay.
Overall, I think it looks in pretty good shape. I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
And I turn that over to the council. Any questions of Mel? Hearing none, we're going to start on the opposite side of the table for committee report. Chris?
David, Mel, and I met on the sewer committee. Further discussion, we're getting there, and we're going to plan on another meeting.
Okay, very good.
Ziggy couldn't make the meeting, and she won't be here for this meeting either here. So, but as Christine said, we may end up wanting to meet. We've been trying to hold these meetings at 6 o'clock before a 7 o'clock meeting. I think what we might want to do is meet, maybe in next Tuesday or meet sometime so that we can get you a draft, possibly for the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Excellent. David?
The skate park is on the agenda later on,
Yep.
so I would
We'll
reserve
cover it. All right.
comment till that time.
Excellent. Randy?
I actually was at the Job Corps Community Liaison function on Friday, and I reaffirmed with Dale Nolan about the snow shoveling crews.
Okay.
And he said that they were still on board with it, and he gave me the phone numbers are
Yeah, we'll need to,
Yes, I'd like to see this get into the newsletter.
yeah, no problem.
Okay, his cell number, Dale Nolan's cell number, and Lyle Smard's phone number. Dale's is 349-6105, and Lionel's is 877-0327. And they'd be
So
the
give
one,
me that last one again.
0327,
No, the four, all 7 digits.
877,
Oh, it's 877
0327.
032.
And that's actually, those both are Lionel's numbers.
Would you want those in the newspaper?
Yes, because this is for the elderly, so that they have people to go shovel for them.
Just elderly, not handicapped people?
Well,
I would say, yeah,
yeah,
okay.
I
Yeah,
guess
sure.
we'll make that stretch.
Yeah, we'll stretch it.
So Dale Nolan, No-LAN is 349-6105.
No, that's actually, I gave you, that's Lionel Samard's.
Okay, so Dale Nolan is 877-0327.
Those are both live.
Okay.
spoke with Dale Nolan.
Okay, and Dale's numbers are 349-7837, that's 802. And his regular number is 877-0155.
Yes, that is.
But that rings directly to Dale.
Okay, and what's the other name? Is it Lyle?
Lionel Smard, S-E-M-A-R-D.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
S-E-M-A-R-D.
And it's Lionel, like Lion E-L?
L-I-O-N-E-L.
Sorry for your patience in that.
No, that's okay, it's fine. I want you to get it right, too. And it was a good event, and there was quite a few people there. There was Mel and the acting chief liaison, and Pat, and the, can't think what his name is, Robbins, Henry, and his wife, Lucille.
Betsy Benton was there, Kitty Oxholm was there. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but basically those were non-staff attendees, if you will.
Right, and there was the lady from the high school, too.
Sure, Lee Shorey was there.
I couldn't remember her name. Yes, and one student.
Good turnout. Excellent. Anything else?
Nope, I'm all
Okay.
set.
Sorry about that. Joe, seeing some emails floating around, and they look very good. Moving it right along.
Yeah, as Mel mentioned in his notes, I do have a committee put together to investigate the swimming pool transfer. It includes Kitty Oxholm, who lives in the neighborhood, Linda Hawley representing the school board, Kim Palmer, who represents the swim team, and Roland Guyette, who's been the maintenance man. We're planning on meeting next Monday, so hopefully I'll have more information at the next meeting.
Good, excellent.
No reports.
No fishing, huh? Okay, all right. Really nothing as far as, nothing to report as far as 6A. Joe's taking care of number B already. A sewer extension, we've covered that. Boy, we're flying through this. Discussion, now we'll go back to David, number D. That's discussion, creation of a skate park oversight committee.
Okay, well, Mel and I met with Chris LaBerge, who works in loss prevention for the League of Cities and Towns, who's our insurer. And we wanted him to come down and take a look at the facility and see if there was anything that he needed to point out in terms of anything that jumped out at him in terms of creating a level of exposure for us down there. And as far as the facility itself, he didn't really have any issues with it. Mel and I took the opportunity to go over with him some of the concerns that we've had relative to the operation of the facility. And if we can take a few minutes, I'll run through what those are. And bring everybody up to speed in terms of what's gone on between the last meeting and now. Lee Shorey, who works at the high school, has taken a group of students down there. They've painted over some of the graffiti that was down there on the warming hut and on the reverse side of the backboard. There's still some graffiti remaining. We just need to get some red paint to take care of that on the other backboard. And that was one of the things that we identified very early on that needed to be resolved. The other thing that I did is took the opportunity the other day to go down there with John Tatro from the police department. John has a background also in security and loss prevention. He was an intelligence analyst in the military. One of his duties was looking at facilities from a security perspective. So that's probably overkill relative to our skate park. But we came up with a list of some of the things that we could do to make the facility more secure. And I'll run through what some of those are. Installing some motion sensor lighting, both on the outside of the facility, inside the building itself. It's important to point out that as far as the warming hut, the door is actually outside the fenced off area of the skate park. So we could have an issue where somebody is able to get into that building without gaining access to the park itself. Installing motion sensor lighting would hopefully create an issue in terms.
Can I just raise a point about
Sure.
that? Part of the reason was because when they had Little League, that they'd have access to the bathrooms without having
Absolutely.
to.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
there was
Yep.
some rhyme and reason for that at one time.
Understood. I'm
Yeah.
just talking about
Yeah.
in terms of,
No.
going forward. But the lighting would create a deterrent, somebody who's in there when they shouldn't be. The lights go on, hopefully they decide to leave. And it would also, there's plenty of residential area around there, so hopefully somebody would notice there's a light on where there shouldn't be. Some of it's minor housekeeping stuff in terms of reinstalling the anchors in the bottom of the chain link fence. There's some work we want to do to the hinge pins themselves on the gates to make that more secure. You and I, Mr. Mayor, you and I have talked about getting some non-duplicatable locks for that. I'll talk with you about that after the meeting. And those are all relatively minor things that we can do that will greatly increase the security of that facility. Getting all the graffiti off the walls, it creates a situation where, and I understand it's free expression and, it can be considered art, but we really don't want that sort of thing down there. I mean, it's one thing for a group of students or community members to come to us with a proposal to do a mural. It's another thing for somebody to go crazy with a spray can down there. And that's really inappropriate. Mel and I feel very strongly that to a certain extent that can create a level of disregard for some of the other stuff that goes on down there. I also met with Jay Stetzel the other night to talk about rules, talk about the existing rules for the facility, talk a little bit about what we would want supervisors to be doing. And some of the, I won't run over all of the rules, but one of the most significant is that that we're going to be requiring, at a minimum, the use of helmets in that facility. As the language on the sign says now, it says use of safety equipment such as helmets, gloves, knee and elbow pads, wrist supports, and proper shoes is recommended. Both Mel and I and Chris LaBerge feel that really doesn't go far enough in terms of both providing for a safe environment in the facility and also protecting the city from undue exposure. So going forward, maybe Andy can get the word out that we're going to be requiring the use of helmets. and that will be enforced by the supervisors. Somebody shows up, no helmet, no use of the park. We also have from Chris LaBerge, a publication that he put together, risk control guidelines for public skate parks. There's really not any good examples of municipal facilities in the state. We're hopeful that we can get this rolling and actually be used as a reference going forward in the future. Between how we have the facility set up, the quality of the structures themselves, the fact that it's fenced in, the things that I've just talked about, the fact that we're going to have supervision, we're going to require helmets. Chris seemed very, very comfortable with that, and I think his words were, you're 95% there, or something to that effect. So that's where things currently stand. I mean, it's a lot more involved than I think a lot of people realize in terms of what it entails managing a facility like that. Mel and I've had some discussions about the possibility of bringing the skate park, getting the skate park somehow in the same, well, not in the same area physically, but talking about having it operate under the auspices of the way we run the pool, or the way the pool is run. We don't run the pool currently, but it sounds like we may.
The way
But
they run the pool.
we may end up running the pool. But that's a pretty good framework for what's already there. So I have some names in terms of appointments to a committee. But that's kind of where things stand currently.
I understand there's some homegrown devices there that need to be removed.
Yeah, there's
based on
some-
Chris's recommendation.
Yeah, there's a couple of pieces of equipment down there that weren't necessarily of the original design, and they'll be removed. And currently, everybody,
That should be something posted as a rule so that it's clear.
There is a rule there that says about modifying
Yeah.
equipment.
Mel and I and Chris had a discussion, and basically the thing is we want to keep that list of rules as concise as possible, in that essentially whoever is there as a supervisor is going to be responsible for enforcing it. And to me, there were some things that were listed as rules, and it said, as an example, it said, keep graffiti and vandalism out of the skate park. Well, we really don't allow graffiti or vandalism anywhere in the city of Vergennes. So, to me, that kind of goes without saying. And the same thing to a degree in terms of modifications, that because the facility will not be in use without a supervisor, a lot of the things that were on there are kind of extraneous. We wouldn't, it's kind of incredible to me that somebody would want to show up, with a skill saw and a cordless drill and start modifying a structure, but they might. But we're making headway.
I work with, I know we're not talking about criminals or prisoners, but I work with the criminals and prisoners, and all they do is test you. So I just wondered if it's not clear, it will be tested.
It'll be clear in terms of, the other thing that we'll do is, there'll basically be like an operational procedure that the supervisors would follow, and basically, and again, we're talking about doing this initially with volunteer labor, and when you're managing volunteers, my experience has been you have to keep it as simple and as least onerous as possible. And we're talking about showing up when they say they're going to be there. If they take a specific shift, we'd expect them to show up for that shift, unlock the facility, enforce the rules, report any major issues. Major issues would encompass somebody being asked to leave, vandalism, damage to the equipment, complaints from a neighbor. Whether it's too loud or there's foul language or fighting or whatever. There's a lot of things that are incidents that can occur that aren't necessarily going to rise to the level of a call to the police, but they're a concern nonetheless. Jason Olet, who we've talked about being on the committee, and I've spoken with him, and he's agreed to do so. I've asked Jason to come up with a very basic incident report form, so that if something like that occurs, vandalism or any of the other things I've talked about, that it can be noted, we can follow up on it. I don't want it to be a situation where there's a complaint, and even if it's not of a criminal nature, that whoever makes the complaint feels that the ball gets dropped. So that's kind of where things stand at this point.
Okay, very good.
And I don't know if you want to do it now in terms of appointing a committee?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Name them all.
The
please.
names that I have, and I've already been appointed, and Jay Stetzel, Jason Olet, Rodney Olson, Sandy Cahart, Dustin DiTilio, and Simon Flynn, who are students at the high school.
I'd ask for a motion to appoint those people to the committee.
I make some motion.
Randy made the motion, Lowell seconded it, open it for discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Good luck, David.
Thank you. Just to point out, both you and Mel are obviously also
Oh, yeah.
you're members of every committee.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
thank you.
Not a problem. Okay, city manager's report.
Yeah, just a few items. The police chief search committee met this morning. Kitty was not able to make the meeting, but she and I communicated the day before relative to narrowing the slate, and so Christine and Ted and Tom Parent were there, and we have narrowed the field to 5. I'll be getting in touch with the 5 folks, scheduling interviews to be held prior to the end of the month. We hope everybody, both committee members and the 5 folks that are our primary candidates are available by then. So we hope to, once we get that finalized, there will be background checks done, certainly at a minimum to the finalists, and would hope to get a recommendation to the city council at their first meeting in November.
Excellent.
Second item, fire chief, obviously I put a copy of Ralph's resignation. Ralph's daughter, I'm not sure which daughter, it might have been Christine, but a daughter dropped off Ralph's resignation on October 4th, which obviously we're sad to hear, to see that happen, actually. You know, certainly congratulations to Ralph, but, you know, finding a replacement, we haven't had to, I was born 56 years ago, so Ralph's been fire chief almost as long as I've been on the planet. So obviously I haven't been involved with the selection process. Mike obviously is a member of the fire department. I had a development review board meeting that evening, so Mike made it a point to read Ralph's letter of resignation to the members of the fire department so that they would in essence be the first to know. So they're aware of that. Because things happened very quickly, you know, Mike nor I didn't have any opportunity to try to, you know, figure out, okay, what are the steps going to be? So we've since had, have had, some time, even though most, certainly everyone in the department knows that, we will soon have a vacancy effective November 1. I'm going to be sending a letter out to the entire department, letting them know that, we obviously will be filling this seat from within, letting them know that anybody within the department can put in a letter of interest for that position. I have not actually set forth, how the narrowing will occur. I'm really hoping that, as many of you know, Ralph's health, sorry, Christine, is not the greatest, but, we can still communicate with Ralph. I think that from my end, I think that Ralph and I, we will be a sufficient committee, if you will, narrow that group and interview if need be, and come back to, with a recommendation to the city council. The way it works in our charter is that any of my appointments, appointment is a little, not sure what exactly that means, but certainly the appointment of the chief of police, the appointment of the chief of the fire department, appointment of the public works director, I would certainly regard those as indeed being appointments, and those would come back to the city council. The city council could if they so choose, to have an executive session, discuss the appointments, and then obviously take action. It's possible that, that I may have a recommendation for the chief of police, at the chief of the fire department at the first meeting in November as well. But obviously we're a little bit ahead on the chief of police side. Relative to grants, I'll start from some not so good news, moving more towards some better news. As it turned out, I got an email today, and I've shared a few emails with you, Mike, relative to the big application, which is the boating infrastructure grant, and I'm still waiting on the scoring. And what I think I mentioned to you before that we didn't come in first, and much of the money went to the first place applicant, and there may have been some money to the second place, and I'd thought that that's what we did, came in with second, but as it's turned out, I haven't seen the scoring. I get the feeling that we came in third, and maybe just behind whoever came in second. I want to see the scoring. And what they did was, I know that when they spoke to me, it was about whether or not we would do our project under a very different funding formula. And originally this was a 75-25, and they were wondering if we would be able to do our project with a 60-40. And I think the 60-40 was 60% us, 40% them. So it would have made our numbers change considerably. I told them that if we were to do that, we would have to change the scope of our project to accommodate that. And whoever was the second place apparently was willing to participate at that different percentage. And so there was an email that came down today that stated, in essence, what I've described to you. So it appears that we're out of the running. I mean, obviously, if the second place changes their mind, maybe I'd get another email, but it looks at this point that we placed just outside of the money on this one.
But it is good news for the first place, because that is
Oh yeah, the first
local.
place is the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum. They got
that's good news.
100% funded on their application. So
That's good.
As Mike said, yeah,
Good
it's
for
fine. Second, which is an agenda item here, Mike.
That they don't know about yet.
Okay, the senior housing grant application that you endorsed last Thursday, there was a team of us, Matt Moore, Terry McKnight, myself, Mark Hatler, Betty Bristol, and Martin Casey traveled to Montpelier to, in essence, testify or present, if you will, the application in front of the Community Development Board. They had some $5.6 million worth of requests, with $2 million being available for award. So obviously it was an extremely competitive situation. I felt, I helped to some degree with the application, helped provide some testimony there. I could tell that the board really supported the project, but we did not make this we are not in this round. And what I mean by round is the community development program actually has 3 rounds of applications. I think it's a way to level their workload amongst staff, to not just have all of these grant applications come in at one time and deal with them all at one time. There's 3 separate rounds. And they opted not to fund the senior project, but very much encourage us to come in on that next round. And we have a resolution here which is under 8B. I think one of the reasons why they opted not to fund us in this round, but the next one really dealt with the senior housing project's timing. The timing of that project was not critical to get a decision right now. There's still another funding piece that that Terry and Matt need to go through HUD to make this financial package complete. They don't have that yet. Matt Moore tried to make an argument that by getting funded through this program would put another feather in their cap as encouraging HUD. But of course, that's not really a given. So I think what they want to do is say, go get your HUD money, and we'll make it, we'll make it complete. So I'm hopeful at this point that we didn't get it we didn't get the award this time. The next hearing, the next application round is I think that submission is by November 3rd, and there's another one of these hearings, I call them, or whatever. I believe that it's scheduled for November 8th or November 9th or something like that. So we have that resolution. There's not another, we do not have to have another public hearing on that project, but they did require a resolution. A grant that we did get, I spoke to you before about that we were going after some money to do an analysis, engineering analysis of the Panton Road, West Main Street intersection as it relates to whether or not it needs to be signalized or turn lanes. And those funds were made eligible for us. So Rick Keene, who is the person, the transportation person at Addison County Regional Planning. I can tell you, I work with Greg Edwards, which I don't know if all of you ever met Greg or not, but Greg lives in Bruce Bushy's former house on Battery Hill. He's an engineer, works for Santec. He represents us on that committee, and I can tell you he's been very, very helpful because he speaks the language. He's a civil engineer, so it was good to have him on. It's good for him to be on that committee, and he assisted in putting together that application, so that one's moving forward. Lastly, just a little note on delinquents. We're still cranking away. Sewer delinquents, we have them. We're trying to institute this 90-day rule, where you can go delinquent, but we really are not to go delinquent for more than 90 days. So there's letters that went out to everybody that had anything in arrears, asking them to bring their account current by November 15th. So hopefully that will be in much better shape. The sewer accounts are really, we have a lot of them that are pretty old, so we want to bring those current. Relative to taxes, last time I checked, the number's gone down again. Don't forget, we bill out 927. I think the number we're down to is 15. There's like 3 or 4 of them that are, $9 and $12 and $32. So I mean, we're getting very, very close. But there was, I think, 6 or 7 that got a letter saying that we need to be paid by. I believe that I said October. I think I said October 16th, or we really have to proceed. So we still have a few outstanding accounts. My goal really is I really want to get all of those taxes cleaned up by December 31st. There's a couple of them I know I'm not going to collect. One of them, we do have one property in bankruptcy, and then I have another property from a gentleman today who actually got hurt and is trying to pursue Social Security disability, and he's been battling with the Social Security Administration for 14 months, and so he's been without a job and without unemployment, without workers' compensation. He has no revenue stream, so he does have a mortgage. So that one, that a tough one. You know, I'm rooting for him. I mean, he got hurt with a neck injury, can't go to work. You know, has no insurance. So we have a sad one there. But again, if he can, you know, get his disability, then obviously, you know, those become retroactive, and we'll be able to see it. But we won't. I don't think that we'll get to 100%. So that's all I had there, Mike.
Okay, any other questions of Mel on anything that you have at this point? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business, item number 8A, Frank B. Trombley, Vergennes Redemption Center. We have an application for I believe it's second-class liquor license and tobacco application. It is located at 15 North Main Street in the city of Vergennes. For those that don't know where that is, it's the old Denneker where Tom ran his office, the white building where the superintendent used to be years ago. So I'd ask for a motion. Okay, and I'll take yours as a second. Lowell made the motion, Joe seconded it. I'll open it up for any discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This requires signatures.
Duplicate.
No, he didn't. She said she only had one.
Oh,
Okay, so I'm gonna pass that around and then send it back to me. But Randy, you can start anywhere there. Okay. An item that we added to this was item B for new business, and that's the resolution. And bear with me as my voice cracks again.
Right there.
Resolution, and this is nothing more than a resolution of support and something that we've already done. It's more of a formality, but we have to do it. Resolution for VCDP grant application authorities. Single application, whereas the city of Vergennes, hereafter applicant, is applying for a grant under the Vermont Community Development Program, and whereas it is necessary that the applicant be made and agreed, be entered into with the state of Vermont. Now therefore it be resolved as follows. That applicant poses the legal authority as defined in the State Act 10 VSCA 683, I think that's paragraph 8, to apply for the grant and to administer the program, and that applicant apply for the grant under the terms and conditions of said program and agree hereby to enter into certification and assurance that therefore of the applicant, excuse me, has the duly adopted and current municipal plan, September 29, 2009, and that the project is consistent with the said plan, and or the applicant has a duly adopted city development plan which does not apply, and the project is consistent with the said plan, and the applicant has received documentation from the Regional Planning Commission that the project is consistent with the regional plan, and that Terry McKnight is hereby authorized to be the contact person and as such to provide on behalf of the applicant all documents and information necessary for the completion of said application and to provide such coordination as may be necessary for said application, and that Mel Hawley, city manager, who is either the executive, you want to be the chief executive officer this time, or it also mentions city's manager. The city manager or town administrator is hereby designated to serve as an authorizing official for the grant management online system, and that it is understood if the applicant is funded, the recipient of VCDP funds as federal funds pass through the state of Vermont may require that an audit of the applicant be conducted under the provisions of the Audit Act as amended, and the VCDP funds may be used to fund only the limited portions of the audit cost. Passed the 6th day of October 2009. All those in favor, I'd ask you, do we need a motion on this, Joni, or just sign it?
They're gonna need minutes to them. I think there should be a motion.
I'd ask for a motion to pass this resolution.
Make said
Randy
motion.
made the motion. David seconded it. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. And I'll send it out when it comes back around. Okay, couple quick things that are happening. I didn't even write down the next meeting date.
27.
Next meeting is the 27th, October 27th. Should be at 7 PM here at City Hall in the Opera House. This Saturday night is Haunted Forest. The actual start of that will be at 7 PM and go till 9 PM. Other than that, does anybody else have any information they'd like to share of any other upcoming events? If not, I would ask for a motion to adjourn. And ask for a second.
Second?
Lowell made the motion, Randy seconded it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Good evening.